doctors on the line. He probably deals with people like stuff that I see. He's probably nowhere compared to what he deals with, right? And sometimes if you lose your sanity, you really got nothing left, and that controls everything. Waking up, going to bed, happy, sad, want to hurt someone, not want to hurt someone. And in our community, we haven't been taught, like we have tools now that's starting to be available that we can use, but we have to take the lead on taking action. And as he's a doctor, you know, me doing just be doing my life, I know if we get right, man, we can make the world a better place. No questions asked. That's my standpoint for it.
So, all right, Joe.
I mean, you know, for me, I mean, mental health is the basis of, you know, living a happy life. If that ain't right, then everything else is going to be affected by it by one way or another. I mean, just basically piggybacking off Rykeem said, it's just, you know, if you can't handle that and all the triggers that come along with mental health, every other part of your life is going to be affected. So, I mean, you got to stand on your own as far as, okay, what do I need to make sure that mental health is in the right place? And if you're not putting that in the right place, everything else, it doesn't matter how hard you try, it's not going to fall in line. Like, and you got to be able to look at yourself in that basis of that mental health, whatever that is, to be able to, you know, do what you got to do for you to be in a good place.
Hey, man, my same sentiment. Like, I'm glad I got more people reaching out, and I'm glad. As I said before, it's all coming in God's plan. I got different people of different interests, views, and specialities, I guess you could say, coming out to me. My for to reaffirm my idea. Two places how this podcast is going to go for me. I'm going to do either individual interviews of people, and the other one is going to be either panel / just group conversation. So what I want to do is when I interview people, give out specific hyper-focused information that the other person who's a specialist can give to our people. And then the other part for the panels is just to humanize the Black man, period. Over and over again, we've all heard of how the other sees us, how law enforcement sees us. The country in itself has dehumanized us, just in the general term. So I think people seeing us in the most base human form, speaking about things they don't even think we consider or think of, I think that can also combat some things with, I don't know, stereotypes and how we talk to each other, right? We need to learn from each other, build upon each other. We need to start talking to each other. The number one thing is us as men, I don't want to say we're losing, but we could be doing so much more as a together. One problem I would have to say is us as men is this whole idea of the alpha male. Me personally, I'm going to say I don't believe in it because I actually researched it, but I think that's causing a problem between us because when we walk past each other, there's always the stare, always the glare, there's the up-down look. I would like, Joe, for you to explain what that stems from, how that could have gotten us here, and how could that, is it a connection to police brutality to us in specific?
That's definitely a loaded question. And I think it's one, we've had to be so much on the defensive for so long in America, period. Like, how do you get away from something that naturally became a part of you? I think we get to a point to where we don't even realize that we're doing it. If I'm mean mugging the next person or whatever the case is, or I got just the look on my face or a stare that's where my face is type of thing. Like, I have to be ready for this and that or X, Y, Z because I'm not safe here or whatever the case is. Ahmaud Arbery 2-3 months ago running jogging and he gets, ambushed and shot at for jogging. So why wouldn't the Black man be like on a pivot everywhere he goes type of thing, making sure that, I got to be ready or hyper vigilant. So my face is not necessarily going to be happy, and I got to be ready for that. And on the other end of it, we're not taught how to have emotions or express emotions other than anger, growing up, period. And I think that connects to what you were saying as far as the alpha man. Like, what is a man supposed to do? What is a man supposed to act like? How is a man supposed to express expression? Like, the one expression that's acceptable is anger. Unfortunately, it's not acceptable for you to cry. It's not acceptable for you to be disappointed, for you to be hurt, to experience anything vulnerable, because that's going to make you, as the black man, look weak. Are we allowed to look weak? No, because we're on the defensive for so many different things, or we have to fit a certain stereotype. So you grow up, oh, don't cry, that you can't do that. Nope, it's not all right. You know, the only thing that you're allowed that's acceptable, unfortunately, is to be angry or to be mad. So what kind of face are you going to see when we're walking around, angry or mad? What is everybody else going to see? Angry or mad, because it's the only expression that we're taught how to express. So all these play a role into how we're perceived or what it looks like. And that's unfortunate for us. I mean, and I'm not going to sit here and point and blame one person or the outside. It's on us too. Like, we got to be able to address that internally. Like, I will never sit here and point whatever problems we have at somebody else only, and can't look at it what I can do for myself as far as what I can control. Yeah. And that's an important part as well. Like, I always harp on.
That's my pivotal point of this podcast. It's like, it's about us as far as humanizing us. So Rykeem, I want you, and take your time if we have the time. How did you see that growing up? How can you identify with that in specific? And how did you, even if whether or not you personally went through that, how did you see it? How could you see how can we get out of it in a more of human to human, man to man standpoint? Like, how can we teach each other?
Gotcha. So to continue with what Joe was saying is that, like, I have an ace score 9 out of 10, and Joe was talking about basically like it's telling you experiencing trauma, which you're like expected to get. Out of 10, I got a 9. So that means that I could possibly get chronic diseases, things that affect me, right? And let's go back to the basics. We have been embedded with distrust to our own people and other people. So just like Joe was saying, I gotta wake up angry. Like, what you're supposed to learn at home to be loving and happy, you got to see darkness. All you know is what? Mom did this, dad did this. If I do this, I get messed up. And the reason why it's not taught is because you got to go back to your roots. If you don't know who you are, you can't solve anything. And then we need people like Job who have now the skills and the ancestors we had. They wasn't allowed access to the tools we have to today. Doesn't mean they couldn't have got better before, but now it's a little bit better and a little bit more options. But now with all these resources, if the issue was resources by itself, like Joe was saying, then we have them now and we still don't do anything perfectly because we're still under that slave mentality. So for us to get better, we have to first acknowledge and accept what the past was, what it is, and then we have to be willing to be submissive in terms of letting go of our pride and letting go of that wall that we have up, because we're all great people, but that wall can be fear, and anger can be fear itself. You're angry because you don't want them to see who you really are deep inside, and if they see how weak you are on the inside, they know they can do with you. And that stuff is generational, man. And them black dudes I know who say they tough and strong, come to find out that you might call them ugly and you might break their heart because they haven't been taught how to have emotional intelligence. And we don't talk about emotional intelligence enough in our community to have them actually understand what feelings are. And I had to go through that with my dad. My dad used to be alcoholic. He's beating my mom. So I've seen at a young age how, being like destroyed, being weak, feeble, if I can't feel my mother, and then that just grows up. And I had to unpack all that, except that it wasn't my fault, but I also had to raise a family. So like I'm trying to plow weeds of crap while trying to sow in seeds of goodness. And it's a tough process. It's a daily struggle. And if you don't have the right resources, people who are willing to work with you through that, it's hard, man, to make a difference.
All right. So I'm glad that last part. Let me get into another segue. I don't want to go too deep. We don't have time, but the parenting style. What hit me is parenting, and that's one of my thing I say is one of the biggest issues of Black people is the ignorance. But the number 2, and maybe it's like 1B, is the family. Right? This system, like, it has a strategic, excellent plan of breaking down the Black family, segregating us, separating us, and just watching us feed on each other, like crab in a bucket mentality. it continues. It's a self-destructive cycle. So either one of you that want to start, I don't know. I haven't thought about whether that plays into us being egotistical or us being, is it just on our part of fear of responsibility, or is that what we think it is? Black men, we just don't create families. How could that? Where does that? What stems from? I guess the lack. Where did it come from the lack of black men? I'm just gonna say it, running from responsibility. Let's be real with each other. Like, there are a lot of black men just running from responsibility. Period. Like, do you see any coalition with some of the whole how we're brought up with emotions and how we can not deal with some things?
I'll let Joe go first on that one. That's a loaded one.
It is. I mean, I think I heard it at the end. It's just like emotionally, like if you're not taught how to have emotional expression, healthy emotional expression or regulation or whatever the case is, like a family is not just about putting a roof over somebody's head or putting food on the table. Like, it's about emotions and connections and how you communicate with each other in a healthy way. Like, it's not just the physical aspect, like, oh, let me go to work, put food on the table, and that's it. Like, that doesn't work. Like, why do you think we have a rise in like domestic violence within our sect or whatever the case is? That comes from not emotionally absent people or not functioning in a healthy emotional type of way. And then when you think about the Black experience, if you got parents or mothers or fathers working 2 or 3 jobs, I mean, speaking from my own experience, like 2 or 3 jobs, when do you have time to sit there to be there for your family and do the emotional things or mental health things that you need to take care of? Like, you're sitting here surviving, rather than thriving. So you still go back to that, again, the slave mentality that been dealing with for years and years and years. It's like you're sitting here worrying about surviving, about putting food on the table, and not anything else after that, because when do you have time, in all honesty? And the families that don't, you're so ingrained in that same kind of mentality already. Even if you create a space where it's not necessarily thriving, your mentality is still there as far as still trying to just survive. Like, you don't know what to do, even if you do have that extra space with that emotion. And you're not taught that because you're still based off generations and generations of just trying to survive. So you can't get to the place that we need to get to if there's not an interjection of, okay, you don't have to survive anymore. You can learn how to thrive. You don't have to live just at the basis of human instinct. There's more to life than that. So what are we going to do? Where do we interject those resources or those people that can help, or whatever, or just information to people so that they can grab this information and do better for themselves and not just live at the bottom of human existence, which is just survival.
I agree. And the piggyback what he's saying is also sometimes people fear success more than they fear failure. People talk about how they want to be successful, but that's worse of a fear than actually failing, because it's an unknown, right? So to think about it, right? The slaves came, to America, right? Slaves went to Asia, they went to China, right? You got to span it every single where. So our name, our dialect, our history's all been gone. And then we got this adopted Black culture, that they've plugged into what we're doing. Even down to our religion, what we do has been adopted, right? So you're trying to tell someone that what you feel on the inside is your truth, but you're getting over flooded with everything else. That's not right. So what we understand, the only way to keep them in control is to cut out their history and keep giving them illusions. Whenever we conquer one thing, there's like 15 more illusions that's coming up. So to piggyback on what Job is saying, the only way that we're going to change is that we have to have the skills to do it. And the first thing you have to accept is that you have to relinquish, you have to accept that you don't know anything. The reason why men have a heart, because men, when they're good at something, they're prideful. But when they're bad at something, they don't show it at all. So men don't do better because they don't know how to. Man, I do something like cook, eat, and work. He works, right? Well, he doesn't know how to do it, and not all the time, but just to leaning towards that majority, then they stay away from it. They wasn't taught how to. We're taught what to think, not how to think. Like a doctor, he's taught what to think and how to think. He knows how to create solutions. But that his shift was not really fit into how we learn, which is by moving and doing. And that's why sometimes we have that it's not always consistent. So we got to go back to how we just taught back again, doing an action, trial and error, on-the-job training. That's how we learn best in our community. Some people got to read the books. Most of us, we just got to get in the field and get to work. And that's how we have to attack it and go with them through the abyss, through the dark times, through the crime. And that takes a process to finally build a system in place where we can actually consistently do this without them being pissed off. And we have to understand that if black people are hard, like they always say a nigga's a nigga, right? But we have to understand that they're not mad at us. They're just mad because they never had the opportunity to actually grow and develop. So we have to come from a loving place and consistently love them to break through that hurt in that wall. And you have to have a heart to be able to deal with people like that until they finally break that shell and blossom.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I had to deal with that on the opposite end of the sex with my wife. It's like when people grow up in trauma, that wall is innate. Like they don't even think. I read in a book that said the human body is self-preserving. So also is the mind too. It will create a defense mechanism automatically to protect itself because it knows trauma. The body learns. You break a bone, it'll heal stronger. The mind, you break a piece of my psyche, I glue it back, it's gonna be stronger. Create a defense mechanism. So, let me see. Let's not stretch it. We get on time, man.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing, and then I'll say something. I'll let Joe talk. Most people in our community are broken. The problem is that we have broken and trying to both think they're full and come together. I'll let Joe finish that. But we're all broken people, and we can't really see our brokenness. We might see the anger, but we don't see the spirit behind the action or the emotion behind the people. And we have to understand that most of us are broken people. And once we acknowledge that, then we come from a more of a collaboration standpoint versus authoritative standpoint.
No, and I'll piggyback off that exactly. I mean, if we're looking at, any two people you have in a relationship, communication-wise, as soon as one gets mad at the other, communication is basically broken from that point. One gets defensive, nobody wants to listen anymore, and it's no more. So just like saying what's behind all that mad or that frustration is vulnerable feelings, insecurities, whatever the case is, and nobody wants to talk about those because you want to talk about my insecurities. That's a naked place for most people. That's a place people don't want to show, don't want to expose, and it's like I'd rather be mad because that's a safe place for me to be. It may not be healthy, but it's safer for me than for me to be vulnerable and show you my insecurities. And if we've been doing that our whole lives, we're taught to only be mad to protect our insecurities or our vulnerabilities. That's what we're going to revert to. And if you've been seeing that since you're a kid, you've been seeing your parents do that, other Black people do that, what is your defensive mechanism going to be? So the basis in your brain of how to build coping mechanisms against trauma is going to be, let me revert to being mad or angry. Not from a place of, okay, this is an emotional safe place I can go to express my vulnerabilities or insecurities and have a healthy conversation. That's one part that we're not taught. And even if we are, sometimes it's so far gone. We've been doing this so long, just getting mad at each other or frustrated or walking away and not dealing with emotions in a healthy way that nothing gets done in a productive manner.
Man, so I don't want to wrap it up. We could spring on the big problem I'm seeing on my social media is the disconnect between Black men and women. There's an easy segue that you just said, but we could go on forever. I know we got time.
Hey, listen, let's keep it simple. The hidden struggle of women, I wrote in my book, God Made Man, right? The hidden struggle of women is power. Not power because she wants to be the boss. She's just afraid she's going to lose you or lose her security blanket. So back in slavery, right? They would make the woman take control of what's going on. She was afraid she'll lose her daughter. She's afraid she'll lose her sons. So the slave master made her try to stay in order and keep them in line. And if you see this trend today, they say a strong Black woman, right? And she has to do two jobs and two roles. Because the man's either deadbeat by circumstance or by choice, right? But so the same thing. So to the government is doing all these 4C programs with, right? It seems good, but it keeps a ceiling on her, and it makes her not have both pieces of the family. She's between, do I let this guy in the household or do I get this money? So now she has the choice to either security for her family, not losing her son or daughter, or this dude. That's a hard choice to make any woman go through, right? And then their moms say they don't need a man because they already been doing it for 400 years. Even if the guy's a good guy, the wall's already put up on her because she already knows, okay, he won't leave me, he's a deadbeat duck. And then also you can say men, marry outside race, but her power, she's afraid, but it looks like she's trying to be a boss over us. And most black men will not accept that fact, and that's the hard thing to swallow. But once you do that, it's just your job to have the right vision, make sure she has a place in your establishment.
I couldn't even say that any better. I'm gonna leave that at that.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't believe that. Hey, that's it, man. Systematic something is crazy. But anyway, to not chop it up, but to wrap it up, I guess you could say, in short, like both of you, what can I say? In short, I'd have to say, if there is one thing you could say right now that you see as a plan or you see as the silver lining to get us as black men over the hump and over the jump, and if you see how we could do it, I'd like to hear that from both of you.
Real simple. I have a vision. I want to create something called Kingdom Academy, and it teaches men how to be kings. So Job will be mental health, cooking, law, finance. Put it in a place where, and make it like cheap, and where we can access it and teach the real truth. That's the best way, because we don't have anything that's ours. And I'm not saying we got any money, but nothing where it's specifically toward from the roots where we came back and had Black Africa to now. If we can put that in place and consistently build it, that will be a good starting point. But if it's just Job doing mental health, but then now they got mental health right, but then nobody's doing his finance, Job got his mental health right, but now he might make a decision that has bad finances where he can't get Job's help. So we got to put it where he's getting help in all facets, because the enemy, or your opinions, what you want to call them, they're always trying to find a way to get him out of that place where he won't develop. So we have to put it in one place, one-stop shop. That's my opinion.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, just having accesses to stuff that is either Black owned, Black made, or Black services, whatever the case is. I mean, if you look at the statistics, like as far as me being a Black male in my field, like it's very, very low. And to get people to get to know that it's available to them, like if a Black man had a problem, there's already barriers to that. Okay, but if all you know is that a therapist automatically come to your head, well, some white woman, a middle-aged woman, I'm not going there. But if you knew that this service existed, like you'd be, not saying you're definitely gonna do it, but you'd have more of a inclination to go, okay, let me try this out. Let me help myself, because there's something that I can identify with that looks like me, that's similar to me, or whatever the case is. You know, it's having access to those things, and I agree with that. It's just being okay. If you have one, now let's build on that and have all these other things that also connect to what's your well-being, whether it be financial, whether it be mental, whether it be physical, whether it be a doctor, whether it be whatever it is, just teachers, all these facets of different things that they all exist. As far as us doing it, is how do we connect that to our people and make it available?
All right. Well, as a compliment to y'all coming here, I thank you. I appreciate you. I give you your time to, as we say, do your plugging. What are you presenting? What do you have in the works? Where people can contact you, talk to you if you like, no pressure. Job, I'll let you go first. My bad.
So I can be contacted as far as email. I run my own company, counseling company. Private practice is called ChallengesConquered Counseling LLC. Email for that is ChallengesConquered, ChallengesConquered @gmail.com. Same handle if you're just more social media driven, the same handle at Instagram. Also, I have an individual podcast that I have coming up called We Have a Bad Connection, which talks about relationships in different facets and how we can improve those relationships. So that's coming up. So just look out for that. It's called We Have a Bad Connection podcast. And that's coming up soon.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I'll be brief. So my email is kingdomconsulting1@yahoo.com. And Joe, when I do get the academy up, I probably will need you. And then you can always get your traffic from there. But try to put it in one spot where everyone can get a benefit. We all need it on a serious note.
Yeah, we're always down for the collaboration. We got to keep this together.
So that's what that.
All right, cool. Amen. Well, once again, brothers, I appreciate you, man. Peace and blessings. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna pray for both of you. Definitely.
Much appreciated. I'll take all the prayers.
Of course, I know what you're going through. You're in a mental storm all the time, trying to help other people. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna need.
Trust me.
Whew. Well, I thank you guys one last time. Rykeem, you know we're gonna be in talks. Mr. Joe, we're gonna be in talks. I hope y'all be safe out in the streets. Wash your hands, mask up, keep your head on a swivel while y'all are in these streets. Please protect yourself and preserve yourself. Hope y'all go forth and do great things, man. Blessings.
Most definitely.
Have a blessed day, man.